The drawback is that it also is, then comes the part that you need to create an efficiency using, and in which when you say, okay, we're bringing this, when they buy directly from a farmer, there is a minimum, say, of efficiency that you will need. If you do it for only like a bag of 50 kilograms, the shipping and everything will make it quite costly, and it does not necessarily benefit the farmer or the chocolate maker or us or anyone. If you do a certain amount, then it makes sense. So that's why we have the two options, which is one is really like for anyone that is in that size, which is not much, but still 700 kilograms per lot. Then they can do the complete direct transparency trade. If not, we do it. We do an agglomerated, but we make sure that we apply the same values. And again, the drawback is still that, nowadays everything is, if you need a certain value to make it efficient, otherwise every shipping, everything makes it too costly to be competitive, because at the end of the day, the consumer has a limit of how much they would pay for a chocolate bar. That's one of the things I always urge everyone to collaborate is ship together. It's really, there's no need environmental, there's no need, it doesn't benefit the origin, it doesn't benefit the farmer, it doesn't benefit the chocolate maker, not the consumer. It really goes to gigantic shipping lines that are already very well off. So it doesn't make sense. Sure. I mean, there's those ones, the obvious one where there are those, normally we call them the hidden costs. When you ask a conglomerator or a forwarder to tell you how much the shipping is to something, they tell you, it's say $500. And then when you get the final bill, it ends up being $1,500. And it's like, oh, shipping of documents, shipping of this, and packing and palletizing and the bill of lading. So that's one of the things we try to avoid by creating this fee-based schedule where it has really every single fee that can come up. And then the other thing that is important is also when it comes to quality and what is agreed on or not, or flavor profiles. That's something that we also have to be careful, because even from the same farm, same fermentation process, same everything, if the weather is different, if there might be some flavor changes, that's natural, and that is something that the customer also needs to acknowledge and know that it is normally not huge, but unless it is a farm that is big enough to be able to, even within the farm, do blends or change a little bit or find the right lot for a customer. If they're smaller ones, they get their cocoa, they ferment it. It can be exactly the same process, and there might still be a slight difference. And that is something that I urge always the buyer to educate themselves, especially if it's very small farms. They need to treat it more like a harvest, of 2023 of this hacienda, and then it is a flavor like wine. We know exactly this was this flavor of the season. It is not huge, but it is a little bit to a certain extent, especially from the darker bars where the flavor is quite noticeable.
Yes.
The farmers also, they need to acknowledge that at the end of the day, the makers need to create a product that is flavorful, that has certain characteristics, and that quality is their top necessity. So they really need to, and they need to be also very open and honest of what's going on. I think sometimes they just are afraid of not being able to comply or not being able to deliver. So instead of saying, oh, this time our harvest was smaller, or we didn't get enough, or the flavor is not that good, then they try to sometimes, and again, I'm saying I've seen it, get cocoa from neighbors or from other people that don't necessarily treat it equal. And then we end up with a completely different profile or a different type of cocoa sometimes. So that creates friction. So I always say the best advice for me is honesty from side to side. What you can do, if you can do it, and how you can do it. And, it's better a bad news from the beginning where we can still do something than if it's already in the factory of the chocolate maker and it's already imported and has already acquired all the other costs.